Hi everyone, I'm Nick Kirkenmeister from Lifford Wine Agency. Welcome to a Lifford special. We're over the moon, we're so lucky. We've got both Ben Glaetzer and Frank Mattolo here from Mattolo, funnily enough, and they're here to give us a little bit of information of what goes on behind the scenes to make these wines the great wines that we enjoy today. We're coming to you live from Quince Restaurant right here in downtown Toronto, Yonge Street 2110. Come on down and check it out. And we're talking today to Ben Glaetzer and Frank Mattolo from Mattolo Winery. And what we're looking at here is McLaren Vale fruit. We're going to have a fantastic chat. And I'm going to start with Frank, and hopefully I'll get a couple of straight answers out of him, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I just want to know a little bit of the history. Mattolo, how did you get to where you are today? Where'd you start?
Back in '95, first got into this winemaking. I was just purely a hobby and passion. A mutual friend of ours, Paul the Greek, organised a lunch. We didn't know each other at the time. It was about 10 years to this month ago. And 12 bottles of wine and 6 hours later, we sort of struck up a bit of a plan, a mission.
All right, now Ben, I want to ask you a question, and that is, the Barossa Valley is what we all think about when we think about Australian Shiraz, and you in particular make some absolutely fantastic wines in the Barossa that you're very famous for. But I was hoping you could tell us, Barossa Valley and McLaren Vale, what's the difference? How do you make the wine differently, and how do they taste differently?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, Nick. Barossa, as a region, tends to be a lot more restrained, let's say, than McLaren Vale, and the wines reflect that. I mean, it's quite a good analogy to draw is the difference in the cultures between the Barossa Valley and McLaren Vale. The Barossa Valley was settled in the sort of early 1800s by Silesians who fled Germany, essentially. So it was settled by the Germans. And Barossa means Valley of the Roses. So they came across the top of the hill, saw these wild roses growing. Germans thought, that looks fantastic, let's go and settle there. Now, not wanting to offend Germans at all, but my father's background is of German origin. The Germans are very rigid, very regimented, as you can imagine. Everything's neat, orderly, the vineyards are pristine, nothing's out of order. And the wines somehow from the Barossa reflect that. They're wines that are very structured, they can be very tight, but they really do show a bit of generosity. The essence of their origin is about this structure and ability to age, and they're a little bit more reserved than a lot of others. By comparison, McLaren Vale is right on the coast, amazing rolling hills, very sort of relaxed, and it was originally settled by Italians and Greeks who introduced a very Mediterranean sort of culture to it.
Something I do want to ask you, Barossa, McLaren Vale, both regions that we associate with the Shiraz grape variety around the world, but you guys are tinkering with some Cabernet here as well, and in the Jester range, which is readily available at the LCBO and offers a fantastic bang for your buck, both the Shiraz and the Cabernet are or will be available depending on time of year. I was wondering if you could tell me, the Cabernet fruit, what are you doing with it? How are you making it different, and what style are you going for with those wines?
Well, Cabernet Sauvignon as a variety is certainly the wines that I've made in the past, and the ones that we try. Cabernet tends to be quite hollow. It has what I call a scalloped mid-palate. So if you picture a scalloped shell upside down, there's just sort of a dull, sort of a dip there. Now if you try and transform that image into the palate structure of Cabernet, it starts with some lovely fruit and finishes with some good tannin, but there's not a lot in the middle of it. Now you've got to be pretty fickle to be looking that closely at a wine, but that's what I do. Now we didn't want to blend other varieties in and come up with just a unique blend. We wanted to have a wine that was an expression of a single varietal McLaren Vale Cabernet.
As I mentioned though, it's Shiraz that tells the majority of the story, and not just the Jester. We're lucky enough to have in our glass the GAM. I was wondering if we could start by asking you, Frank, if you could tell me the history of this wine, how it came to be, and Ben, if you could give us an idea as to how you make it.
It's named after my 3 children, Gemma, Alex and Marco, and we're going to have some issues if we have some more children. They'll have to be Eric or Emily. But yeah, I think we were lucky enough in that first year to meet up with a beautiful Italian family in McLaren Vale that's got this fantastic vineyard, which we call the Jan block, and it produces exceptional fruit. I mean, on the palate there's dark black fruits, it's quite brooding in style, but also quite voluptuous, and it's expressed that character from day one, and it still does today. So it's just, I guess it's our baby because it's our first wine and quite special to us.
So any secrets, Ben? How do you make it appeal to everyone?
Well, that's a very good question.
Yeah,
No, I tell you what, if I had to tell you that, Nick, then everyone would be making that style. But
well, I just want to say thank you to both of my incredibly generous guests here for sharing a little bit about how they do what they do. So Ben, Frank, thanks for coming, guys. Enjoy your stay and cheers.
Thanks, mate.
Remember, if you're interested in this or any of our other wines, 416-440-4101, nick@liffordwine.com, or just the website liffordwine.com.